Good morning, Miramar, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tamara G. Don't forget, you can check us out on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at City of Miramar. And we all know it's right here in Miramar. And right here with me today is the most unlikely leader, an unbelievable journey from GED to CEO. And it is the life story of Roger Smith. Listen, you guys are going to be so amazed at this story, and I was, which was why I wanted to talk to him. You have lived a very interesting life, Mr. Smith. Tell us a little bit
I
about
have. I have. And Tamara, first of all, thank you for having me on your show.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
No problem.
Um, it has been an interesting life. I look back at it and am surprised myself that I made it,
This
up to
far.
this point. Yeah, I am absolutely. So, um, my childhood, my father went to jail when I was 3 years old. And so my mother was a single head of household, trying to bring up three kids in Manhattan. And so I was always like a pretty independent kid. I was in Central Park. I'd like steal my brother's comic books and go sell them in Central Park. And, I was, walking dogs and really a pretty independent kid. My mom remarried, and back then on the East Coast, if you went bankrupt, then you moved as far west as you could go. And so we moved from Manhattan to Malibu. And at that time, Malibu was just apartment beach shacks. You had a small enclave of big homes, but the majority was just apartment beach shacks. And so that
What
was
we would
kind
call
of
beach bums here in South
yeah,
Florida. Okay.
yeah, absolutely. And that was me as a kid for sure. From the time I was eight years old. So and I was a pretty good kid. I wasn't straight A's or B's, but I was B's and C's. I was like the star of the high school musical in junior high, and in the chess club and that type of stuff. And then just before I turned 15 that summer, it was like a flip switched or switch flipped, and and I went from this kind of good kid to all of a sudden 6 months later to being a drug addict, a homeless, and a high school dropout. So, needless to say, prospects for a bright future were not looking pretty good.
But what would you say happened there, Roger, as to why it took 6 months, literally 6 months to lose everything, but it also happened when you were 15? Was there something
Yeah.
traumatic that happened, or is it that you just grew
You
up?
know what? It was, I guess that rebellious stage that happened. And, I was really looking for my tribe. I was looking for my people. The hippie movement was just starting, and and that's what I found. But in reality, the love, peace, and all that um didn't matter as much as the drug part of it. And yeah, I when I look back, I was actually very surprised that it escalated that quick.
Yeah.
One of my friends got a job on the dock of a hospital, and so he was like grabbing cartons of morphine capsules or vials. And so what may have started off with like sniffing toluene, a solution actually used for cleaning barnacles off of boats, moved very quickly from there to morphine to heroin. um, and yeah, and that was the fall.
And I was going to say, Roger, a lot of people can relate to kids, maybe trying marijuana, maybe even trying some pills. But like you said, you went very quickly from one thing to
Yes.
like really hard drugs, and you were 15 to 16 years old. How did that affect you? Because you said in less than 6 months, you were a drug addict, you were homeless, and you were out of high school. What
Yeah.
did you do? How did you survive?
You know what? I just survived on the streets. You found people to live with. You hustled up in whatever way possible, whatever, jobs you could do, sometimes whatever you could steal. It was, you know, that was the existence.
Right.
It was
Not the life
survival.
that you would encourage people to go through, right?
No, never,
Right.
never.
And it's a lot of people give Euphoria, which is the Emmy winning show on HBO, with Zendaya. They give her
Mhm.
so much flack, or they're getting a lot of flack from parents who say, this isn't realistic. High school kids aren't doing drugs like this. Yet here you are saying, no, this is really a culture. This happens in high school as well.
Oh, sure, sure. And it's amazing the amount of hard drugs that are creeping in. It isn't just marijuana. It isn't just mushrooms. I mean, there are really some hard drugs, and not only hard, but hard, dangerous drugs. Combinations of chemicals that definitely weren't. It was dangerous when I was a kid, right?
Right.
But today, oh my gosh, it's so treacherous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we hear that every day. And down here in South Florida, we actually have a fentanyl crisis for with
Yeah.
young people as well as older ones. But we can talk more about that in a little
Yeah.
bit.
I listen,
Go ahead.
I'm in Stewart.
Oh,
So
are you? Okay. Okay, great. So you
so I
part of
get
South
it.
Florida, so Okay.
I get
Um, if
it.
you're just now tuning in, we're speaking with Roger Smith. He has an empowering story, and his book is called The Most Unlikely Leader: An Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO. And that CEO is because he rose through the ranks of the National Income Life Insurance and Liberty National Life Insurance companies and basically turned your entire life around. What age did that happen for you, Roger? And what happened to make it happen for you?
So I was about 23, and my stepfather, he had just started working for American Income Life Insurance, and after about 9 months, he asked me if I wanted to come in, and my self-esteem was so low. I didn't want to disappoint him, but it's not like I had opportunity knocking. It wasn't like, oh yeah, there's a lot of people who want Roger Smith. There weren't. So there were not a lot of job openings. So I ended up taking it. And it's interesting to me because I was like the worst salesperson in the world. I mean, literally, they teach you in sales, when you get to the close, you use the closing line, and then you shut up, and whoever talks first is the one that's the buyer, right?
Okay.
And so I would get to the close, I'd shut up, and the back of my neck would start to shake. I mean, to the point where I literally thought that the people thought I was having some type of seizure. That's how scared I was. That's how fearful I was of the close. And it just teaches us, sure taught me that you don't have to be a natural born salesperson. You don't have to be a natural born leader. You don't have to be a natural born CEO. But what you do have to be willing to do is to learn behavior. I wanted to be successful, and so as a salesperson, I learned the behavior of a salesperson. When some people or most people were giving 6 presentations in a day, I was doing 10 presentations in a day. I would practice my presentation every morning. I did all the things that I needed to do so that I could start to get results. And if I could start to get results, then I could start to get confidence. And if I could start to get confidence, then I could be successful. And it worked that way,
I
right?
was gonna say, and I can see how that, I'm enjoying talking with you now. I think you're a nice guy. I don't even know you, but I would think that if you are coming, to the house trying to sell me some insurance or however you're doing it, I would buy some insurance from you.
Well, I'm retired, so
But that did move you into thinking long term and changing your life, right?
to a point, because I was also a functioning addict, and unfortunately a well-functioning addict. And I was a functioning addict for over 20 years, which means that I was having all these successes, but none of them were sustainable. Because remember, the picture in my mind, deep, deep down inside, not the one that I portrayed, but the one deep down inside was of this, old, homeless, broke, addict. That's the deep down picture inside. And so every time I would reach success, then I would self-destruct and then build up again and self-destruct and build up again and self-destruct. And it wasn't literally till I got sober and was able to change that picture in my mind that I was then able to have sustained success.
Mhm. And
So yeah, it wasn't.
how would you, I know, how would you, if someone is watching this right now and they are going through the same thing, like you said, there's a difference between the people who can function as an addict and those who can't. So let's start with the functioning addict, the person who is going to work every day, but once they get paid, all their money is going to something. And it doesn't have to be drugs. It could be, people like to eat, people like to shop, people like to gamble.
Gambling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's all types of addictions.
Yeah.
Yours was drugs, but
Yeah.
how do they get to that first step of saying, I don't want to do this anymore? Does everyone have to hit rock bottom?
It's the only way I know how.
Wow.
And you keep on questioning, which is, well, wait a second here. I thought I hit rock bottom. Oh, I guess it wasn't. But there comes a point where you just go, I don't want to live life like this anymore. I don't want to do it. If for me, what happened is I finally said, if this is what it's about, I don't want to live anymore. I'd rather stop living, and unfortunately, I didn't do anything, like what I was thinking of. And fortunately, I believe I've been really blessed in my life. But I had to get to that point to then say, okay, listen, let me get sober. Let me change everything I was doing. If I put on my left shoe on first, I was going to put my right shoe on first. Well, because I had many years of addictive habits, right? So I wasn't taking any chances, man. I was doing like the opposite
Of
of
everything.
everything.
Mhm.
Now, here's the good news. The good news is if you think about the amount of negative energy that you spend in feeding your addiction, and now you still have all that energy and now can apply it into a positive sense, in a positive force. It is amazing where you can go and how you can go.
And I'm sure
And
you have
yeah,
spoken to addicts, former addicts, to tell them this. I think a lot of people probably get down on themselves too, Roger, because they don't succeed the first time.
yeah,
They maybe relapse, or like you said, you kept doing it. You kept being successful, and then you would sabotage yourself. And then you
yeah.
kept being successful, and then you'd sabotage yourself. So how do you give them the encouragement? Because I know you speak to a lot of people about this, to keep going. Don't give up. You sometimes you are going to fail.
So what I would say is, listen, sometimes you're just going to feel that the deck is stacked against you. And you know what? It may be. It very well may be, because you've done a lot of things during your addiction that all of a sudden come to haunt you after you've gotten sober. But here's what I can tell you. Here's kind of like my philosophy on it. You know how people say, don't burn your bridges?
Absolutely.
Don't burn your bridge, right? My philosophy is the exact opposite. Burn every damn bridge you have. And I say this, and I say this for this one reason. And I don't mean relationships. I mean, if you want to burn a relationship, that's fine. But what I mean is this: we're going to hit obstacles in our life that absolutely seem insurmountable.
Mhm.
Absolutely seem insurmountable. And if the back of your mind, you have a plan B or an escape hatch. In the back of your mind, if you're thinking, well, if this doesn't work, then I'll do this, then the temptation to do this becomes so great when you hit these walls, when you hit these insurmountable obstacles. If you burn the bridge behind you, if you say, you know what, I'm not going back. I am only going forward. I'm only making one step in front of me, one step at a time. It is amazing what happens in human nature. It is amazing how creative we get over that wall, get through the wall, go around the wall, but we do get through it. And then later on, we look back and we go, that was just a bump in the road, right? But we kept on moving forward. And that would be my advice to people that find themselves and even if they relapse, okay, fine. That was then, this is now, keep moving forward,
Right.
you know?
And speaking of burning those bridges, do you have to burn the bridges with the people that you did drugs with or you were doing things with? Do you have to literally get rid of those people? Or, has it already been done for you? Because I'm sure you lost a lot of relationships.
Well, that's for sure. In fact, the only people who want to hang out with you are the people that want to still do drugs with you. So for me, like I said, I can't talk for everybody. For me, absolutely, I had to burn all those relationships. I I didn't want to test myself to see if I was strong enough because I didn't feel strong enough. So the only way for me to do it was to burn that bridge and go, nope, I don't, that's not the path that I want for my life.
If you're just tuning in, man, you are missing a wonderful show. We're speaking with the most unlikely leader and unbelievable journey from GED to CEO. We're speaking with Roger Smith, and he has written this story of how he got clean, got his act together, and rose through the ranks of American Income Life Insurance, where he eventually became CEO. But he didn't stop there. He also went on to serve as CEO of National Income Life Insurance and Liberty National Life Insurance Companies. Retired now, enjoying life in South Florida, Port St. Lucie Stewart area. But I would love to know, I know you talked about how your stepfather worked for the insurance company at first and then asked you to come in, and then you worked there, and you were scared to even do that because you had such low self-esteem. But
Correct.
you worked through all of that to become CEO. How does that happen, literally? Because a lot of people would be like, wow, he must be lucky, but you worked at it, right?
I worked really hard at it. I worked really hard. Sometimes I tell the story where I'd be sitting in financial meetings as CEO, and I literally would feel like a fifth grader who can't read, in class. And so what other people where it just, became very easy for them, for me, it was hard. And so what happens is a lot of people go, oh, it's hard. Oh, it's too hard. My mentality is it's hard. So therefore, I'm going to work harder than anybody else to figure out what I need to figure out to be successful in whatever I'm doing. So, I never took that thing of, oh, I don't know, this isn't in my personality, or it's not something it's too hard to learn, or any of that. It's like, okay, if I want it, it's the old adage, if it was easy, everybody would have it. Okay, right? Well, not everybody has it. So therefore, understood from Jump Street, this is going to be hard, and then do the things that are necessary to overcome, the obstacles that are in your way.
I always wonder, even in my own family, even,
Mhm.
with two of my brothers, they have had addiction issues. It's well known. But I have never had one. I've never tried any drugs.
Good
And
for you.
yes, and I mean none, no pills,
Yeah.
marijuana, nothing. But do you feel like maybe there is an addictive gene? Because it seems like some people are way more susceptible to it than other people. Like, I don't feel like
I
I have an addiction to anything.
Yeah, you know what? Um, it's interesting because I had a conversation with each of my kids
Mhm.
and said, listen, um, this is something that you have to watch out for. and it may be something that you have to battle your whole life. So yeah, do I think that in the genes are you more susceptible? All day long. So, yeah, you're fortunate.
Wow. And then with states, getting on the bandwagon of doing medicinal marijuana and
Uh,
making it legal, do you feel like that's a gateway drug, or everybody, there are studies and there are people who use medical marijuana that
yeah,
it helps them.
yeah. No, no, listen, I don't believe in any way, shape, or form that in those circumstances it's a gateway drug.
Mhm.
Listen, I think in fact, what you find often is that you have people that have addictions to painkillers that are trying to figure out a way to get off of painkillers, and maybe being able to use marijuana medicinally, it helps them relieve some of the pain that they're in. So no, I don't believe that at all. Do I think that that may be the case if you were 16 years old or 17 years old and you're out there and you're experimenting? Yeah, then that might be gateway, but I don't believe it, later on.
Because I actually do know some people who use it, and they have ADHD, and they said
Uh-huh.
when they use it, what it does is calms them down. Like it makes them able to, I guess, not necessarily cope, but to finish something. Like, otherwise
Yeah,
everywhere they're all frenetic. And so
yeah.
when they smoke, it actually makes them be able to focus, I guess, is what they're.
Yeah, no, I love that. There are so many properties in there that can be helpful. So yeah, I don't. Yeah.
And so when you go and you speak to groups or to um, addicts, what is their reaction to seeing you, someone who, does have this unbelievable journey from GED to CEO?
So it's interesting. Most of my speaking is done in front of sales organizations, and so. But as you know, I'm completely transparent. So what I'm hoping is that there's somebody in the audience there that's sitting there and they're going, "Oh shit, that's me."
Yeah.
That's me. That's what's happening. Maybe I'm not that bad, but that's me. And then hopefully the second thought is, well, he's not anything special. If he could do it, then I can do it. And that was kind of like the purpose of writing the book, is if I could inspire somebody, motivate somebody, if you're sitting there and you're just feeling stuck in life. And it doesn't have to be obviously the extremes that I had, but no matter where you are in life, that 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 you can get unstuck, that it really is up to you, and you can get unstuck, and you can move forward, and you can have perseverance, and you can have those things in your life that you want.
And I love the fact that you said that people can get unstuck. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Roger Smith. He is the author of The Most Unlikely Leader: An Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO. He tells the story in the book of how he got clean, he got his act together, and actually rose through the ranks of several insurance companies to become CEO. He's now retired, living the good life in South Florida. We're so happy to have him with us. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you are writing this book, Roger, because once again, it proves that addiction knows no bounds. It knows no culture. It knows no race. It knows no sex. It can happen to anyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about writing a book. So if I wrote a fiction book and I asked somebody, "Hey, how'd you like the book?" and they said, "Well, I didn't really like it," you go, "Well, okay." But when you write a book about your life and you go, "Well, how'd you like the book?" and they go, "Oh, I didn't like it." You go, "Wait, that's my life, man. You gotta like
I
it."
actually lived that, right?
Yeah. So you tend to be in a little bit more vulnerable space, especially being the CEO for many years than than I'm used to. But
And that's another thing too. When writing the book, did you feel like there were things that you had to leave out, like you couldn't, tell where all the bodies were buried or what you did, or, is it a totally frank and honest depiction of what happened to you from when you lived in New York, moved to Malibu, dropped out of high school, got to work for an insurance company, moved up the ranks? Like, are you, is everything?
So listen, that's a great question. And the answer to it is yes and no. So the no part of it is that I put in everything to be transparent. The only thing that I didn't get into is I did not get into family a lot. I dedicated a little bit to my children and talked about them, but I've been married a few times, and you know what? If I really became transparent on that, nothing good was going to happen out of it. In fact, only negative could happen out of it. And so that part I said, nah, that's I don't need to go in that direction.
Right. And maybe because, addiction, it definitely affects every family member different, whether it's a spouse or a parent or a child or a sibling, because, having to watch it myself, I couldn't believe this was happening to my
Yeah.
sibling. I couldn't believe that these were the choices that were being made. And I wanted it to be different. And it really, I guess you would have to tell people, Roger, that only they can make that change, just like you did. I can't make it for them.
No. And you know what? You can tell them you love them. It's important that they know that you love them, but that doesn't mean that you have to be a co-addict and help them along with their addiction. Because like I said, if the only route to change, as far as I know, is really, hitting that bottom, then if you're not allowing that to happen, then it just keeps going and going and going and going. And, you know, hopefully that bottom isn't jail and it isn't death and it isn't, all the things that tend to happen in addiction.
Well, where can people find the book, The Most Unlikely Leader, An Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO, written by Mr. Roger Smith? Where can people get their hands on it?
So they can go on to Amazon and they can purchase it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, or they can go onto my website, which is rogersmith.me. That's rogersmith.me. And they can order the book right from there. My social media is on there, quick bio, that type of stuff.
Great. And I'm sure that there are companies out there that are watching that would love to have you as a speaker as well. So of course, he would be available for hire for that, because I think your message, like you said, somebody is going to be sitting in that audience thinking, wow, did somebody tell him about me? That type of thing. And
yeah,
help.
for sure. For
Wow.
sure.
Well, I am looking forward to all of the people who are going to be picking up this book. Again, it is called The Most Unlikely Leader, An Unbelievable Journey from GED to CEO, written by Roger Smith. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or even on his website, rogersmith.me. rogersmith.me. Thank you so much, Roger, for the interview today. And thank you for the words of encouragement and wisdom that you are giving for people who are living with addiction and who want to change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show.
And thank you for watching Good Morning Miramar. Until next time, I'm your host, Tamara G. See ya.